You're never gonna faze me, cause that love's too good, that love's too good for you, baby, for you, baby. You're never gonna faze me, cause that love's too good, that love's too good for you, baby.
Thank you for tuning in to the 4th episode of the Living Room series. Today, our artist is not a singer, but a poet. We've got senior Kia McKnight performing her poem, She, for us. Check it out.
No one prepares her for the weight of the world as they rested upon her shoulders. No one tells her their burdens are the reason her youth will quickly become older, but it's expected. Of a young woman shaped by pressure and fire, her presence becomes a gift not easily acquired, as if bounty hunters seek her out like diamonds they desire, but even treasure gets tired and buries itself below ground to finally let its soul elevate higher, and yet the world still wouldn't see how it led to her life prior. Or notice how with her she carries these titles, these labels of mother, caretaker, provider. She wraps her inner peace with pages of Bibles, her prayers of protection for deaf ears and disciples, yet scars of fallen soldiers still etch into her skin. Her hands lock together as the graveyard begins, her back a little weary, but she'll stand with a grin and pause time for a moment as she reflects on her kin, but no one prepares her. No one tells her of the strength she possesses or how her spirit is one made as a blessing, how hearts light up with thoughts of her essence or the power within her to foster thousands of nations. Still, no one tells her that she is God's greatest creation.
Loves you better, boy, you know.
What is your love language, and do you think that it's actually important?
Okay, so my love language, my top one is quality time.
Okay.
And that's always been the top, but it's changed, like, over the years. I think it's important, though, to know your own so that you can know what you need to receive in order to feel loved and know what you need to do in order to love. And I think it's also important to know the other person's love language so that, even in friendships, too, because I started asking my friends, like, what's your love language? So I could just cater to that, because everybody wants to feel loved, so I think it's just really important to know so that you could properly love somebody and not be like
I just need words of affirmation is probably my top, and then quality time, because I'm so busy throughout the week and like traveling and stuff for track, so it's like, well, I'm not going to really be able to spend that much time with you, but when I do, it needs to be quality. But like when I'm out traveling and stuff, like I need to be like reassured, like like we're still like we're still good. Like if you have some like grudge or like you feel some type of way, then you need to let me know so we can move forward.
That's really interesting, because I think I've seen a lot of things that are like, oh, your love languages are whatever your parents didn't give you, but that doesn't apply for me and for a lot of the people I know, because my family is super physically affectionate, and like I said, physical touch is super high up on mine, and quality time is my top one. And for most of my life, either one of my parents were home, or I was at my grandparents' house, like literally every day after school. So I always had a lot of quality time with people I love and a lot of physical touch and interactions like that. So for me, it just translated over exactly, because I wanted to keep that environment.
My family does not touch each other. my mom loves it. My mom is the one who's like, give me love and hugs and kisses, and like 4 out of the 6 of us are like, no. we're not gonna do it. It's just, but that translates for gifts for us, though. Well, gifts and acts of service are almost the same thing for me. Because
I think they are.
They've always, they're very similar.
They're so similar.
Because for my family, it's always, if you need something, we're gonna get it for you. You know, and you don't necessarily have to ask for it. So, my brother, his soccer ball is falling apart, and I was just like, I can't with this. I'm gonna get you a new one. Or my grandmother almost every other Sunday gives me like $100 for college, and it's not because I asked for it or whatever, but she's like, you got to be taken care of. So we're gonna get that for you. You know what I mean? So even for a while, gifts was number 2 for me, but I had to explain to people, it's not like I don't need you to buy me all this expensive stuff. What it's really about is just being taken care of.
That's for me. That's the same for me too. I think receiving gifts for me is, I don't know if it's the lowest one. It may actually be the lowest one of my love languages, and it turns out it's the highest one of my girlfriend's love language, which is cool because it's like, it's whenever I think of things that that I want to do for her, I want to surprise her with, like, just doesn't have to be something extravagant or anything like that, but just to remind her that she was on my mind today. And but like it's for me it's a similar thing where it's just like like I don't know, like, even though I am not the biggest, like, I'm not big on gifts or things like that, I've grown to, in my relationship, and knowing her love language as well, I see the importance of it.
I think it makes holidays really interesting, like with your love languages, because my and my boyfriend's love language, like our lowest love language is gifts. And like for me it's 0.
There's no Christmas.
There's no Christmas.
No, but it's 0 for both of us, and so like Valentine's Day is coming up, and it's like, well, do I buy you something or but then it's but like instead we're gonna go to San Diego.
That's
like,
a gift.
that's the quality
yeah.
time, and we have the same order for love languages also, which also just helps.
Made in heaven.
Right. No, like my girlfriend loves like giving. She loves even. Like, since receiving gifts is top for her, she also loves giving gifts. Yeah. And she'll get so like excited about gifts and everything. Like she'll be dying like to tell me what it is. Just like I'm just like, calm down. But like she's big on gifts, and it's like even though that's my lowest, like receiving gifts is my lowest. It's nice. It's nice. I like gifts.
She's like, I got you this. And you're like,
It's just like, oh, okay. No, I was playing, but I love that.
I think with the gifts, like at least when it was one of my top lists, it was more so the fact that somebody thought of me more so than just the actual gift. Because like a lot of times I wouldn't actually like the gift that I got. But it was like,
what did they get? It shows like their appreciation.
Yeah, or like
okay, we've been on good terms. But I'm about to give you something because like you make me feel special.
So why don't you bring me to my peakless climb?
When it comes to your relationships, right, and your family and your friends, how do you go about introducing your significant other to your friends and family, or how do you go about taking their little comments or whatever they have to say?
When I first told my mom that I had a boyfriend, she kind of like wasn't sure if, like, not sure, but like she wasn't, I don't know what the word is.
She wasn't feeling with.
She wasn't convinced.
Yeah,
She thought you were lying.
Cap.
That's cap.
Yeah, you playing? Stop that.
Let me check back in a week.
Right.
Okay. So something like that. So it took a long time for me to like tell her, because also like I didn't trust that like relationships or like any relationship was ever gonna be good and whatever, but that's a lie. Love is real. So it took me a long time to convince her, but then like it finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like he should meet her. Because he had met, like, everybody else in my family. I have a really big family. He met, like, everybody else. My mom was calling me. She was like, why is Auntie Leah telling me that she met your boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, So, yeah. But when they met, it was good. So nice. I think it's definitely important, though, to find somebody that you think will mesh well or, like, be a good fit, because like you said, family is very important to me, and if my family doesn't like the person I'm dating, or if they see like an issue,
you gotta
person
take
I'm
it
dating,
into account.
It's like, okay, so what are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
No, I'm like the same way, seriously, because my mom, whenever she's talking or spoke to me about like relationships and stuff like that, she's always very cautious about like bringing people. She doesn't want to bring anybody to meet me unless there's something serious going on there. So I try to like pay her that same respect. Yeah, I know how important it is to like meet parents and meet the family, and if you're lucky, like I'm lucky right now, like my girlfriend, we're all in the same like friend group, friend circle, so it wasn't anything about my friends, but with my parents and with my mom and dad specifically, aunts and uncles and things like that, just like, it's not like I'm hesitant to bring her around, but I just want to personally just, you know, be sure. It's another like level of like trust and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're really, really opening up a world and the things that were going on like before y'all even met. When you introduce your significant other to your family.
Right.
So you gotta be sure about that.
Yeah, my family's like really small. Like it was like I was growing up, it was just like my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, and me. And so bringing someone into that family like dynamic, like we're already so close. Like they know everything. Like they know what makes you upset, mad, happy, and like just trying to like let them know like, hey, like there's another person that's about to come in. And I know my parents are like the type that like they'll like bend over backwards for like anything. Like if they need me to do something or like they need to come and meet you, like they'll do whatever that has to take. And so just inviting someone in to like be able to like, okay, these are my parents, like my family, like they're gonna accept with open arms, but like if you mess with them or like you kind of mess up, then that's gonna leave a bad taste and it's gonna be hard to like earn their trust back.
Cause their love's too good, their love's too good.
There's something that, Kid, you touched on a little bit while you were talking about your relationship is you were just talking about the love is real. But I feel like when you're single, you can be the most bitter human being ever. Especially because all my friends all of a sudden was in a relationship and I was just sitting there like, oh, that's what y'all want to do? Yeah, I'm happy for you and your relationships. But I'm over here, you know, by myself. But I think... first of all, we could be super bitter when single, so it's really when you at least I've learned, especially when talking about my relationships or who I'm talking to at the time, I have to be careful. Because I know I love my friend over here, but I know that you're also super negative because you just got broken up with. So maybe I'm not going to tell you how hopeful I am about this real quick. But then also learning whatever baggage you have outside of a relationship, you are going to throw that into the relationship. Whatever triggers I have outside of relationships, as soon as I get in one, it's going to be even more out there. Exactly. So I think at least for what the value of being single is for me is being able to know what my habits are, know what how I do things and what my personality is without having somebody else, and then being able to in a relationship know these things and know how to stay true to myself, but then also what's going to be amplified and what I might need to tone down. You know, so
that's facts. Single is not the same as being alone. It's two different things. You're single, but you're not alone. So it's like when you have, you should appreciate the blessing of being single because you're able to be as selfish as you want. And it's like in your single phase, you just have to remind yourself of all the things that make you special and unique and things like that, and love yourself.
Right.
Because then when you do encounter that relationship and that relationship starts to blossom, you will have already, I guess, sort of managed the things that you're self-conscious about, the things that like you're not proud of. You know how to deal with those things. You know more about yourself. Get to know yourself really before you get in a relationship.
Like, so
to know
really,
somebody else.
like actually, like really, truly know yourself inside or out, like completely.
It's also interesting because like you can bring love languages into this. You know, for people who have words of affirmation and their love languages, even just in general from their friends, you know, if it's easier to feel, or quality time even, it's easier to feel more alone when you're single if all of your friends are in relationships and there's just less time in general, you know?
That one hit.
Or a lot of like your expressive love is going to your like significant other as opposed to your friends, and so they lose a little aspect of that too. Or if you're the single person, you lose a little bit of that too, and that's something that's hard to balance for the friends in the relationship and the friends who aren't, especially at the beginning, because you know you're getting used to this new person and this new dynamic, and then how this new dynamic also affects your friendships, and you know it can just kind of be a lot for everyone as your feelings start to shift and move around.
Excuse me while I don't get it. Kind of just play it. Kind of. No, but I think that also, I think you also have to get, and that's something I had to learn too, is you just give space to your friends for that. Because this is somebody else that they really like. And at the end of the day, hopefully, if you're a good friend, you want your friends to be happy. You know, and if this person makes them happy. Not too happy, but you know, you do want them to feel, you know, we all understand that sometimes there's a love that you just cannot give your friends that they need, and that somebody else will be able to give them. So, you know, I've definitely had to learn, like, all right, bro. Nah, they're not, you know, these next 2 weeks, it's gonna be tough.
It's kind of hard though, like, trying, when you're like in a relationship, you go from being single to being in a relationship, and that's like one of the perks of being single, because you have time to like dedicate to what you want to do. When you're in a relationship, now you have to dedicate time not only to like what you want to do, but like the other person might want you to do something with them, so now you have to dedicate time to them too. So trying to balance like the friendships with like the relationships is like hard. It's hard.
Right.
So, like,
It's hard, yeah.
because your friends might be like, oh, well, I really want to like do this, and this, and like they already have plans, but you only see your person once every 3 or 4 weeks, so they come around. It's like the one time they can like meet up with you. It's like, well, sorry, like we already made plans, but I'm gonna have to cut this short and go see the person I'm in a relationship with.
Right.
And so then your friends obviously see that like, oh, you're just dishing us for them. Like, it can be like a, like, it can be like you're backstabbing them, and like you don't really like care about them that much. But it's not that you don't care about them. It's just you have other priorities now that you have to set along with someone else that you're trying to get to know.
Right.
For you, baby, whatever gon' phase me out. 'Cause that love's too good, that love's too good.
How do y'all deal with arguments or disagreements in a relationship? I'm saying they happen, right? They happen. I've been blessed to have parents, and both my grandparents are still together, so I only really know like good relationships, right? But I've been able to see them get into arguments, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, family, we're going to the movies. We're like, weren't y'all just arguing? Are y'all okay? You know what I mean? But they were able to tell us, like, we're not, it has nothing to do with our character. We're just arguing about this issue. So I've been able to use that in the relationships I've been in. But how do y'all, those of you in a relationship, or even if you're not, you know, how do you deal with that?
What I've discovered is that, so in previous like relationships, whatever, it was never any type of actual communication. So like problems would arise and it'd be like ghosting, or like just like stupid conversations that went around in circles. But what I love about my boyfriend is that he, like, from like jump, like he like laid down a foundation of communication, like communicate how you're feeling, communicate why this makes you feel this way, like what's on your mind, any doubts you have, any fears, like all of that. So in a way, it's like there's not, if an issue arises, it doesn't ever get to the point of an argument. It's always just like a conversation that could be had calmly, respectfully, where like both sides are heard. And it's, so I think if a foundation of like strong communication is laid down at the beginning, like from the beginning, working through the easy stuff will help to work through the hard stuff if you have a strong foundation.
Being toward the beginning of my relationship, like it's only been a few months, it wasn't even like an issue, but I think you don't want to break that honeymoon phase kind of thing. You don't want there to be any issues, so you let things go or you don't bring them up, and then the first time you do bring them up, you have to figure out what this conversation is going to look like. And something that I really appreciate is that I really appreciate the fact that like my boyfriend is a talker. So he talks a lot. You know, he talks a lot in all situations. I mean, y'all know him. But that was good because the first time we had a conversation, that needed to be had so we could move forward, we talked about it. Because he doesn't shut down. And I think a lot of my past experiences, people just kind of shut down. Myself included. I can be super passive aggressive, which is like fun for me sometimes, but I also understand that it's no, but it's like I'm not a super confrontational person, and I don't get angry easily. So it usually takes me a lot longer to get angry than the other person. And like I said,
I feel that way.
Yeah, like,
it takes me a little bit. But once I'm there, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a big family and like a lot of siblings, and so like I know how to push people's buttons, you know. And so like, no.
Are we the same person? Are we the same person?
Now it's less about, okay, I'm not going to do this to intentionally upset you, because that is not effective communication. You know, like I'm going to understand, like knowing what's going to upset you, and like just the fact that we'd had so many conversations not in any sort of disagreement or like impasse or anything, and understanding what and how to frame what I'm going to say made that entire process more effective. Like the conversation was still 3 hours long. Like there was a lot to work through, but we were able to work through it like very calmly and rationally, which I think is really nice and like very important, because it wasn't the most major of issues, but now it's not going to be an issue moving forward because we broke the whole thing down.
Right. I think it's also important when you're communicating these disagreements, like when you're in a relationship, any kind of relationship, right? You know someone's vulnerable side. And I think that was hard for me getting into relationships, because I've been told so many times, like, you're the person who has their stuff together. And I'm like, that's beautiful that you think that. And I love that. I love that you see that. And I hope that you always see that. But when you're in a relationship, even really close friendships, when I'm making close friends, like even Jay has dealt with this with me, I'm not used to people seeing when I make mistakes. I'm not used to when I'm agitated, what that looks like. Like I said, it takes me a little bit to get agitated, but I'm there for a little bit. And I'm not used to people saying that. So me being okay with someone knowing all facets of who I am, and even liking the parts of myself that I don't even like, that's really strange. When somebody goes, I love this about you, and you're like, but I hate this about you. What I'm saying is just somebody knows you so deep, so that when you're in disagreements, knowing that I can hurt you if I wanted to, because I know this about you, and I could pull this out, and now this whole relationship's done because I got this tiny little information right here. But knowing not to do that and be careful with the other person, and I think that also, like you're saying, helps communication, because you know what not to say. You know,
but you have to care enough not to say.
Yes.
You know, like not letting yourself get angry enough, and just reminding yourself that the whole thing is rooted in like love and affection and care, and not trying to win whatever you're talking about. Like something that I really like that someone said to me was it's not you versus the other person, it's the two of you against the issue.
Right.
So like figuring out how to work together.
Cameron gonna say that. Oh my God.
See that? Put that right
It's
here.
not us. It's not us.
It's not us.
It's like against the issue.
It's like beautiful.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, but it's like it's a really beautiful way to look at it, and it's also like beautifully phrased, you know. So it's just I think it helps, because you don't want to hurt the other person.
Right.
Like you don't get into a relationship to hurt someone, and so getting to the point where you care enough to know all of these things that could hurt them and actively avoid putting them out there to hurt them is super important.
For you, baby. For you, baby. You, baby.
What are some of the stereotypes about Black love that you now don't think exist? Do you think they need to be revisited, or how does your relationship fit into the Black love idea? You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, as far as for like me, Black love is powerful, because especially like with my dad, because I am openly gay, so I know that was probably hard on him. But looking back on like his background, all my dad's siblings, like none of them are married, but they all have kids. My grandma had I think my dad has like 4 or 5 other siblings, and they're all like from like kind of like different fathers, and so like being like his own, well, my older brother, but like my older brother's like my stepbrother, and so for me, like being his technically like only son with his last name, it put like a bigger stress on me as like male in society. Like obviously we're trying to break gender norms, but it was just like growing up, I can tell that like his mom would like never really say I love you to him. And so growing up, like I would always like me and my mom would have like a really like strong connection, but me and my dad would kind of just like be there, like you know how like you used to love somebody but you just know how to express it.
Right. Yeah.
And so for some reason, like after coming out and everything, he was like, you know, one thing I always vowed was to be in my kids' lives, and like nothing about you is gonna change. And so like I've seen him like open up, and like he'll like every now and then just send me a text like, hey, like hope everything's doing good, like I love you a lot, like. So just like seeing like how if you are there for like your family and stuff, and like you really love somebody, how like that can really push you and motivate you, because he's one of my like biggest inspirations and like why I'm here today. Because I'm trying to follow his footsteps. So, but it is powerful. Like you can do so much things when you can really just be loved.
Right. I think just seeing.
Damn.
Oh, wait, you got another one. I think there were tears. We love to see that. I mean, it's genuine.
You're never gonna faze me, cause that love's too good, that love's too good for you, baby, for you, baby. You're never gonna faze me, cause that love's too good, that love's too good for you, baby, for you, baby. You, baby. You bet for you, baby.